Okay, well, as I said, I think we'll make a start. Welcome everybody. Yeah, so this is we have undertaken this year. One of our initiatives is a webinar series on a whole range of topics, everything from sales, marketing, culture, leadership, profit improvement, sales, all lots of topics. So we do have so keep an eye out for our webinars, and they're on offer to existing clients and also to prospects for the business. And we will look at also for our clients, probably more so at this stage, probably looking at providing recorded copies of the webinar, which we can use as part of our coaching model. So, all right, let's get on with it. So for those who don't know me, I'm Philip Coombs. Is the founder and director of Profit HQ. I've spent most of my business career as a business owner with the CEO or owner of 14 different companies, and I sold my group of companies 5 or 6 years ago, which were turning over 150 and 200 million. And I've had 500 or 700 people working for me at different times. So my background is ownership and CEO and profitable, and I built one of the most successful businesses in the country. So I've got a pretty good idea. I've also had some terrible failures, so I've got a pretty good idea what to do and what not to do. Too young to retire, I decided to take on a business coaching, and I love it. I wish I had done it a lot earlier. So Profit HQ is the company, which is the actual business is Simply Business Australia, but trading under Profit HQ, which is reflectively, we're all about profitability of a business, and on a whole webinar series and everything we do in our coaching is how to make business owners more successful in what they do, and to be successful in business, you've got to be profitable. So the common linkage for us is profitability. So the webinar topic is one very dear to my heart. That in terms of successful of a business can't be successful without leadership, and certainly the leadership and what it is changed dramatically when you consider the majority of leadership training and development materials you see out there actually stem from the post-war era, as leadership actually evolved from leadership in the armed services and the military and the Air Force, and so it actually has quite old heritage and very dictatorial style of approach. But today, leadership is a very, very different beast and a very different animal to what it used to be. And if you want to be successful in business today, you better learn what's best practice in leadership. There's no question about that, because I reckon 7 out of 10 calls I get an hour revolving around people and problems with managing people. And therein lies the problem. It's people trying to manage people instead of trying to lead them, so which we'll talk about a little bit later. So also too is, if you ask 10 people what definition of leader is, you get 10 different answers. So today I want to give you for the next 40 minutes or 45 minutes, and I may stretch to an hour if I can't stop talking, on the subject of what really I call high performance leadership. Now, we've written a book called U Factor, and without a doubt, for me, the element behind this is that the number one secret to business success is the U Factor. And the U Factor, well, what is the U Factor? And it's what you do, it's the actions you take, the habits you develop to determine your success. At the moment, what I find in business, people looks outside. It's the marketplace, it's my competitors, it's industry disruption. They're looking for excuses or reasons why their business is not doing well. But when you look for outside of yourself, you're not actually getting to the root cause of the problem. And this is where you can look at you can do all the courses in the world, an MBA and all the rest of it. It won't help you. The fact is, because it's externally focused and not you factor focused. So I want you to think about that. Is if your business is not as successful as it should be, or you want to be successful, be determined about what you do. And more important, we'll talk about it, what you do on a regular basis, which is really defined by your habits. So high performing habits is really in two parts. First one is that how do you manage yourself, which is personal effectiveness. And we did a set one of our previous webinars was on the subject of personal effectiveness. In other words, it's how you manage yourself. And pretty clearly, you can't manage other people unless you learn to manage yourself. So the second part of the picture is how you manage other people, which is what we determine as leadership. So leadership is about high-performing habits in managing other people. And just a note there, think about it, high-performing habits are the things that you do regularly and often that produce results. Like, for example, if you want to lose 20 kilos of weight, you've got your diets. You've got to do diet on a regular basis. You've got to eat regularly. You've got to go to the gym regularly. You've got to do exercise regularly and often. If you don't do, and business is no different. If you don't do things regularly and often, you won't get the results. So that's what we talk about when we talk about habits, and it's the habits that produce results. So, for example, getting to work on time at 9 o'clock, or whatever time you start. I don't know many business owners that start at 9, but let's say by 8 o'clock as a habit. But then that might be a habit that gets you there on time, but it doesn't mean your success. But what you do when you get to work on a regular basis will determine your success. I love this one, is people do not decide their futures, they decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures. So you want to look at your success, you've got to look at your habits you form, and your habits form from understanding clearly what actions you need to take. So I've got here a couple of definitions of leadership. There's lots been written about it, and you'll Google lots of different opinions, and a lot of the definitions when you Google are very old, go back, probably 10 or 15 years. So what I've done is taken the sort of definitions around and sort of brought it, trying to bring it into sort of, as I see it, on a modern day basis. And one I like quite a bit is what it's evolved is the art of motivating a group of people towards achievement of common goal. So there's two parts of that. Is one, number of parts to that. But first thing I think is about an art. I think it is an art form. It's not a science. It's an art. It's an art about creativity and behaviour, and key one, motivating a group of people towards achievement of common goals. So the whole point here is that leadership is very difficult if you don't have a common goal to start with. What are your goals for your business? What are your goals? What is your common goal? And okay, so what's a common goal? A common goal is a common goal is one that's shared with other people. In other words, everybody understands what that goal is. Like you might have a goal for your business. Does everyone who works for you understand what that goal is? So that was a term common goal. The second part of this is not defined by a title. In other words, title does not make you a leader. You see a group of people, and you get a group of people, someone will stand out as a leader, but they won't have a title leader. It's not defined by a title, but how you put into action the vision that allows the business to thrive. So in an organisation, you can say, oh, so-and-so is a really great leader. And the reason is that it's because of what they do, what you see them do, and what actions they take. It's not by the title. In fact, unfortunately, worldwide, there's considered to be a severe dearth of quality leadership. So people might have titles of managers, they might have titles. Interesting, nobody really has a title of leader, but leadership is a part of whatever job role you're doing. If you've got people underneath you, those people need to be led. So I think that's a pretty good. So the art of motivating a group of people toward achievement of a common goal. So what is high performance leadership? Well, high performance leadership is an extension of what we've done here. And we'll look at high performance leaders are ones who achieve results and don't make excuses. I've got to tell you how day in, day out, I hear nothing but excuses why stuff does not happen, does not get done, or why results are not being achieved. But if you're putting your energies to make excuses, you are not getting the job done. So high performance leadership is all about, and high performance leaders achieve results. And I love this quote, a quote that we picked up somewhere along the line: you can have results, you can have excuses, but you can't have both. So as soon as people I work with in a coaching sense that continually make excuses, look, there could always be an excuse for one-off thing, but if they continually make excuses for why results aren't being achieved, they're not high-performing leadership. It's very low-performing leadership. So I want everybody to think about high performance in terms of meeting or achieving or exceeded results, because Great leaders, that's what they do. Why is leadership important? I mean, we could talk on this topic for hours, but I've sort of simplified it down. Is that leadership is critical to the success of any business, and a business is people, and people need to be led, not managed. That's a big difference that people got to understand. Is that people need to be led. So, one thing we're going to talk about here is a manager versus a leader. So there's lots of elements I could bring up, but what I've done here is just put down half a dozen things just to show you what the difference between a manager and a leader is. So let's just talk about the first one. Is it a manager plans and budgets, where a leader is someone who shows the direction, shows the way where a business is going. A manager organises and allocates resources, where a leader aligns and influences people. Manager controls and solves problems, where a leader motivates and inspires. A manager directs people, where a leader coaches people. A manager focuses on systems and structure. Leaders focus on people. A manager tends to achieve balance and status quo and making things work, in an organisation, where a leader must make changes. A very different animal. So we can see from here, people question, well, are you a manager or a leader? To be successful in business, as a business owner, do I need to be a leader or a manager? The reality is you need to be both. It's not a question of one or the other. But your business will not be successful unless you are a leader. So in my mind, it's got to start with leadership. And a lot of people outsource the management skills or delegate the management skills, but you can't delegate leadership skills. You want to be successful in business, you have to be a successful leader. So if leadership's about managing others, how do you manage others to achieve results? So what we're going to do here now is run through a range of, I'm going to call them habits for the sake of this webinar to think about, because you've got to just not go away and do one of the stuff once. You've got to do it on a regular basis to have an effect on the long-term sustainability and success of a business. So, and we'll run through these things. You won't do them all. In fact, a lot of you listening to this will do very few of them. But what I want you to look at is that if you want to be a highly successful business, you'll end up over time doing most of these things. So anything I want you to look at as we're going through there, jot down on a bit of paper to look about, making note of the three things, of the areas there that could make a significant difference to you and your business. So just make a note what could work for you. So as a business owner or a leader, what do you got to do? You've got to be the driver. You've got to be the driver. You've got to be driving the bus. And driving the bus, you've got to inspire people. You've got to motivate people. You've got to get commitment from people. And I think also, it's another point I should have added here is you've got to know the direction of where the bus is going. If anyone has got to know where the bus is going, it's got to be the bus driver. Otherwise, you certainly won't wind up anywhere where you thought. So second part of that picture in terms of if you've got to ensure you have the right people on the bus. So you have a look at it, how do you get the right people on the bus? Is the first one for me, and these are just a few points, is it hire slow, fire fast? Well, in terms of a habit, I can tell you now, most people say they hire quick and fire slow. So we're totally reversed to getting the right people on the bus. So what happens in most businesses is people in the business there that aren't contributing as much as they should towards the growth and development of the business. So second part of this is in having a look at your people in terms of, well, have I got the right people on the bus? I think a wonderful question is that, would you enthusiastically rehire all your people? Or would you enthusiastically rehire the person for the role that they're in? You might need to put them in another role, it doesn't matter. The question is it, would you, it makes you really get an understanding is whether you have the right people on the bus. And the other thing ensuring the right people on the bus is if you've got the right people on the bus, you've got some hope of developing a very powerful culture for a successful business. So again, what does a good leader do? Sets direction. And that direction relates around a clear vision for the direction of the business, purpose, in other words, why you do what you do, your mission, what you do, and how you do it. Very clear goals, and it's in short, it's where the business is going. How many of the people that work for you have a clear understanding of where the business is going? Or if you work for a larger company like a multinational or a corporate, do you know where the business is going? Big question. But that's the job of a leader, is to set direction. Other job as a leader, build culture. The most powerful thing a leader can do is build a culture that operates independent of leadership. So how do you build culture? There's really, there's a whole program and a series of steps to build a successful culture, which we have and we've developed, and building a very successful program around that. But the core of it, the starting point, the foundations of it all is very much about understanding what your core values are, which means of core values that if everybody followed would produce the culture that you want to build in the future. The second part of that core value is what guiding behaviours to have in terms of demonstrating and implementing those core values. And the whole point, it's the behaviours of a business that determine culture. And so it's guiding behaviours that bring the core values to life in the organisation. What's the other thing leaders have got to do? Remove barriers. So always barriers in business. If you want to make change in a business, there'll be a barrier. If you want to shift a business, you want to grow a business, you want to make it more profitable, there'll always be barriers in the way. And it could be mindset, it could be attitudes, behaviours, it could be a lack of funds, it could be a lack of technology. There'll always be barriers, but leaders have got to be able to identify through their people what those barriers are and look at removing them so that the people can enable an organisation to go forward. And trust me, in every business, and whether you're a corporate or small business, there will be barriers. So a big one I get, for barrier for smaller business owners is time. I don't have the time to do that. So you got to, recognising that's a barrier, you got to address how you're going to do it. How are you going to do it? How are you going to address that barrier to be able the business to move forward? Next one is ensure functional accountability. And what this means is that, and trust me, you would think most businesses have it, but they don't, not at all. But what it means is that every facet of the organisation, facet you change it, every function of the organisation has a person assigned, and they know what they're with accountability to ensure the goals are met. So the point is, you've got to think about it. List down all the functions in a business, everything from sales, marketing, debtors, payroll, all the things you need to do for your business to operate. And ask yourself the question, who is responsible for that function? Yes, in a small business, if you're a sole operator, you're responsible for everything. But as you grow, you've got to pass that functional responsibility to somebody else. But leaders don't handle this part well enough. But people need to know what's expected of them and how they're going against that. So often people are held responsible for something when they've never really been made accountable properly in terms of understanding what they're responsible for and what goals and what is expected of them. Communication. If you think you're communicating, communicate more. And if you think you're communicating more, communicate even further. Communication around leadership is one of the most critical things that a business owner can do, a business owner or leader can do. And the critical elements of that communication are clear message. A lot of leaders' messages aren't clear. They're quite gobbledygook. They're twisted. They might know the intent, but there's a lack of clarity around message. And I think in a lot of cases, people try to put a message into too many words. So one of the things that I say here is that if you've got a message, try to pare it down to as fewer words as possible so it becomes clear to the recipients. And also communication about expectations. Do people really know what you expect of them? You expect them to turn up on time. You expect them to finish expect them how to work? Do you expect the vehicles to be tidy? Do you expect them to how do they behave to clients? A lot of times I find in business that the leaders aren't good about communicating expectation. Also communicating is that people need to know how things are going, what's happening in the business, what's going on, all the good things and even the bad things. And in terms of communication, it's very important, I think, in terms of having a meeting rhythm, that communication is not a one-off. Like I've often heard, oh, look, do you get together with people? Yeah, look, we did it about 2 years ago. We got together and we did this and do that. Oh, that's not a rhythm. You say, well, okay, if people need communicating with, how often should they communicate? It might be 6 monthly, which then over that 2 years is they should have got together 4 times, not 1. So meeting rhythm is critical to communication, so people know they're not guessing about what's going on in business. They know what, oh, look, next month we've got coming up, we're having a staff meeting to, for our leader to give us an update on what's going on. So think about it, but meeting rhythm is critical to effective communication. Delegate and empower. And what is the difference between the two? You look at delegation, often people be held responsible for something. And that happens today. Oh, I've delegated responsibility for collecting debtors to June. But then June hasn't got any authority to be able to do anything about it if somebody hasn't paid. So the whole point is the difference between delegation and empowerment. Is empowerment, you've got to make people responsible, but also give them appropriate authority to be able to do something about what they're being made responsible for. So that's the difference. And it's a combination of the two. You've got to delegate, yes, but you also got to empower them. So it's not one or the other, it's the two work hand in hand. So what that means, you've got to let them take responsibility and give them responsibility, and likewise, people have got to get ownership over that responsibility. You get ownership about them, is also really empowerment's a big part of taking ownership. Get people to take on challenges, give them authority, make decisions. And they've also got to have whatever tools they need to achieve results you're after. So their ability to make decisions, and that decision might be to spend some money to bypass a process or whatever it is necessary, is that you need to delegate them the authority and empower them with whatever's needed to get the results you're after. As a leader, you need to show integrity. And, in a few sessions I've run lately, we've talked about integrity with employees, and what's come back is, I think one of the most common things is, I wish my boss would just do what he says he's going to do when he said he was going to do it. And to people, what they feel that is a lack of integrity. Now, no leader wants to have a lack of integrity, and just show integrity. So, what can you focus? Are you one of those leaders that, oh yeah, I know I got to do that, and oh look, I've been too busy. Excuses, results, or excuses. Again, oh look, I've just been too busy. That just doesn't cut it with people. Do what you say when you say, and if you can't, don't promise something to be delivered in a week. It's way better to say, you know what, look, I'm busy. Yes, I'm sorry, but you know what, I'll get back to you in 2 or 3 weeks with it done. Then you get it. That's integrity. The other thing is live your core values. Talk to people about the core values and what their expectations are of in the business. But you know what? Even a lot of leaders don't actually live up to the core values. They don't practice what they preach. So you've got to lead by example. And you've got to understand what your core values are and live them, and make sure that others do too. But you've got to, as I said, lead by example. Encourage collaboration. Collaboration is a newish word in the managing of people, but what it really is about collaboration, it's just an extension of effective teamwork. But it's working together to achieve a common goal, through cooperation, participation, contribution, listening, and most important to me is respecting for others. I mean, do you respect the opinions of others if they're different from yours? Collaboration, collaboration these days is critical to creating a really good culture, working environment. Manage success. Do we manage success well? I think that's a big question mark for me. But managing success, leaders have to manage success. And just a couple of attributes I want to put forward here of very powerful leaders. That really good leaders are not ego-driven. So it's not about them. It's about other people and understanding the importance of other people. And what they do is that they credit others with success. Hey, fantastic team, you have done a great job. It's not I, it's we, you, different words. Ego-driven people, you, geez, I've done a great job. So credit others with success is essential to managing success. So I think other great leaders take responsibility for lack of success. It's something that they've done. They take ownership. It comes back to this ownership culture where they take responsibility and don't blame others. I think that's essential in leadership. Do not blame others for lack of success. Take responsibility. And I'll tell you, I guarantee there's something you've got to do differently to ensure that the business gets back on track with success. And a big one too is that I don't think people do enough of celebrating failures. They don't use failure as a learning experience. They use it as a way of chastising people. And if people get chastised and they feel down about what's going on, it doesn't create a safe environment. And if people get feared of failure in a business, they don't do the things necessary. Oh, look, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make that decision because I'm scared of making a mistake. You want to create what's called if you want a really good culture in your business, you've got to create a safe environment. And that means recognizing the fact that celebrating failures. And you go, well, what do you want to celebrate a failure for? What you could celebrate as a failure is on the basis of a learning experience. What have you learned? And the fact that it will never happen again. So what you've celebrated is the fact that it could be a cheap exercise into preventing a much bigger failure that could be catastrophic for the business. So don't forget about managed success. Just don't, too much with people who go, of just dealing with people when something goes wrong. Focus your team. These days, business and people in the organisation are caught up in a whirlwind of just busyness, busy. You know what? I do not know anybody that's not busy. In fact, some of my friends who are retired say that they don't know how they ever work. They're busier than ever. Everybody's busy. There's lots of things consuming our time, and it's called the whirlwind. And how you get cut through of that whirlwind is through developing a skill set and habits that enable you to focus your team. So our suggestions here on how we help organisations focus their teams is through leadership, is establish a quarterly theme. Say your organisation is you're running at about 80% of the budget, on your sales. Is the quarterly theme is sales, achievement of budget or overachieved budget. That's the quarterly theme. That way everybody knows, and that theme is communicated to all team members, is, what, we've got to spend time on sales. Or all the activities that they're going to achieve the budget sales or overachieve. And a lot of organisations are using the daily huddle. We catch up for 5 or 10 minutes and do nothing but talk about the daily influences on the quarterly theme. Another one is a weekly WIG meeting, which is WIG is a wildly important goal. So the quarterly theme might be to achieve 100% of sales budget for the quarter, or your WIG is achievement of sales budget. You have a weekly meeting about that to track on your weekly dashboard on sales, and to communicate with the team about ensure the commitments that people make towards doing things outside of the daily whirlwind that will contribute to achieving that quarterly theme, the goal. And if you're going to set up a daily huddle or weekly meeting, make sure you've got a rhythm. It's not just done one week and cancelled the next week and because it franks away or whatever, or someone's too busy, just don't cut it. You've got to have a rhythm. These days, leadership is about maintaining that rhythm. So think about it in terms of what's the number one thing that you must achieve this quarter to move your company forward, and that's what you need to focus on. Engagement. Employees need to be engaged. In fact, you read a particular more come out of America. I haven't read one from Australia, but I don't think it's any different here. That you read the extensive engagement surveys are being done today. And in excess of 60 to 70 people are disengaged from the organisation they work for, which is amazing. You know, and how is engagement measured? You know, very, very much through employee surveys. So you got to, get the feedback from people through some form of surveys. I mean, it can even be, part of your communication meeting rhythm where you catch up on a quarterly basis to get feedback from people how things are going, help them solve problems. Whatever you do, engage the people in what you're doing, and so that you understand them. And a big one is teach people to solve problems. If you teach people, they become engaged. Shared vision helps them become engaged, helps them become aligned to where the company's going, where the direction. So again, you want to engage people, share things, transparency, meeting rhythm, ask lots of questions. So is engagement critical to management and leadership of people? Absolutely. Are companies doing enough of it? Are leaders doing enough of engaging? No, they're not. Obtain customer feedback. If you look at in terms of leadership, the whole organisation is built around serving a customer. That's what you do. You want to serve a customer. That's how you get sales. And what you want to do is you want to satisfy your customer or exceed customers' expectations. That's the role and that's the job of a business. But if you don't seek your customers' feedback, how do your team, how do your people know how you're going in terms of the organisation? So if you don't get feedback about what you're doing well, what you're doing not so well, it won't change the behaviours in the organisation. So a point here in terms of leadership, it's an essential part of your process is to obtain customer feedback and make it regular, not just a one-off. Make it accurate, communicate to employees and motivate people to change the behaviour. And again, do many companies obtain customer feedback? A lot do. But I've got to tell you, is probably the majority in terms of a number of businesses don't. If you get up to larger businesses, most of them have got some sort of feedback mechanism. But the question is it fed back to people and communicated to employees to drive and motivate change of behaviour? I think those steps are missing. A lot of cases, organisations just get the feedback, but they don't do anything with it. It doesn't drive changes of behaviour. Again, to me, another word you can put this transparency, about sharing plans and performance. So in other words, if people understand, then they do not have to know all the ins and outs. They need to know the direction. They need to have an overview how the business is going. Is the business going well? Is it going not so good? Or is it going great? Is sales on budget? Doesn't matter what you don't have to give them P&L and balance sheet. That's not what this is about. It's just about people would like to know how the business is going. If you can give them a couple of clear indicators that show to people how the business is going and it's visible to everyone, it has a huge impact. Likewise, if employees know the business is not going as well in the areas it's not going as well as it should, it will motivate their behaviour to do something about it. Nobody wants to do that. But what I hear from a lot of employees is that they've assumed the business is going well. Yet the management or the leaders in a business know the sales are down 75%. So therefore behaviour doesn't change in, say, a factory, for example, because they don't know it's going. You want to create an ownership culture, that if it was my business, what would I do? How would I act? And you want people to make ownership over what they're responsible for, not just, it's not my responsibility, it's not my problem. And likewise, if you're sharing the plans of performance, you want to ensure a forum of accountability against those performance and the corrective actions taken. So again, we're heading into an era where, in terms of people management and leadership, where transparency is going to be essential. Be their coach. People don't want to be directed today. They don't want to be told what to do, in other words. Take that bit of paper, shift it over there, go out and see this client, do this. They want to be coached. They want to be coached. They want to be trained. They want to be coached in the skills and tools necessary for them to take responsibility for for their job or what they've been employed to do. So it's a very different animal. So not only leaders do they need to be coached, but they need to coach others. And on the learning curve, on what's called the learning pyramid, if you teach somebody, if you verbally teach somebody like today, their attention's about 10, 15%. If you're taking notes and out of this you would write down, I'm going to do 3 things, your learning goes up 40% to 50%. But if you take some learnings from this and teach other people some tools and techniques around things to do, your learning then goes up to, on the learning pyramid, goes up to about 70%. So if you want to be a highly effective leader, you've got to understand that you've got to take on a role of a coach. And that means ensuring that personal growth plans that people have, the organisation, they know where they're going in the business and how the company's going to help them get there. So you might need to do all the work, but you've certainly got to ensure that they're done. You've got to help your people grow. You want to build a learning mindset. It starts with individual mindsets, but you want to create a learning culture in your business where people want to learn, and you've got to develop a culture of wanting to coach, and the people have got to develop a culture of wanting to learn. It must be appreciated that profit performance of a business will only grow to the extent you do. That's you and your people. So if you're not being coached, and if you're not learning, and your people aren't learning, you're not growing, and it will impact, or does impact already, on the profit performance of the business. So looking at the complexity of leadership in the SME world, there's a number of bits to leadership, and it rates around management. Do leaders still have to do management tasks? Absolutely. And that's just ensuring the day-to-day operation of the business and the cogs are well oiled and things are running okay. And generally a lot to do with systems, processes and procedures, and also management of people. But the leadership is where the big void is. It's the process of influence to maximise the effort of others towards achievement of goal. So in other words, how you get things done through other people. And that's what this webinar is about, is showing you what the leadership element is, because this is missing. People are too busy on other parts of the business to focus on leadership. Technical, the work that you do, the knowledge you have about your product and or service. And the reality is most people in business come from a technical background. This is what creates the whirlwind. They're so bogged down with aspects of the technical aspects of the industry, it consumes majority of most of their time. Then the other part, the fourth part, if you want to be successful in business, you've got to have an element of entrepreneurship, which is a function of setting up a business. Well, I shouldn't say in the hope of making a profit, is the establishment of the elements of business of making a profit and how you're going to grow. So, if you're looking at starting a business or you've started a business, you've got to be an entrepreneur. You've got to have a technical knowledge. You've got to have leadership. You've got to have management. You've got to be a bit of everything. But it's a battle. It's a constant battle for time and for your space and your headspace. So what happens, people tend to gravitate to what they know best and what they have, which is a greater knowledge than anything else. And most business owners don't know how to run a successful business. They don't know how to be a good leader. They don't know how to manage business, but they're probably a 9 out of 10 technically. So what that tends to happen is that they gravitate towards that technical side of the business. And your challenge, that's the battle. It's a battle for time. But your challenge is how you shift from technical to leadership, entrepreneurship and management, with high emphasis on entrepreneurship and leadership. So if you want a successful business, you've got to think about your battle and your challenges. And we talked about earlier about barriers. So, what are your barriers? What are your barriers going to be? So think about that. So again, look, that's the end of the presentation, which is shock horror, reasonably on time at about 45 minutes. What I'd like you to think about now is to write down what are from everything we've gone through there, what are the top 3 areas to you that if you worked on that you're not doing that could make a major difference to you and your business. It's not about everything. It's just pick 3, and then I would encourage you to work on 1, and stick with that one until you get what's called embedded into your habits and behaviours. And then when you're comfortable that's embedded as a way you do business and the way you've changed your behaviour, then pick another and pick another. That over time, you will then just continually change your habits and behaviours to be a highly effective leader in your business. You know, I think about leadership is which I haven't put in here, but you know, it's often asked: are leaders born? The answer to that is definitely no. Leaders are made; they make themselves. There's nothing in leadership that can't be learned, and there's nothing in leadership that anybody is capable of. You have a look at it; every one of those items we've lifted there, everybody's capable of doing that. It just becomes a matter of whether you see it's important, whether you choose to do it or not. So look, get it out of your head that you're not going to be successful. You know, you don't think you're born to be a successful businessman or a successful leader because it's crap. All right? So there's nothing about leadership that can't be learned. So what are the next steps? So, yeah, look, before we go on to the next step, it's just reminding me there, does anyone want to put on the chat there any questions?
Well, I've got two questions here. The first one from Michael was, in regards to functional accountability, can some functions be shared?
It's a really simple answer to that, no. Right? You think, you know, that's a pretty blunt answer. Well, it is a blunt answer. Is it if you share responsibility for a function, it will slip through the cracks. Nobody will take responsibility for it. So what you've got to do is make a person responsible for a function. They might enlist and use the help of other people to do things for them, but do not fall for the trap of making multiple people responsible for a function. I hope that answers that. Is it blunt? Answer, yeah, it is, because it doesn't work.
And the final question here was, how can you get honest staff or client feedback in this one?
How do you, okay. Well, let's just start with customer feedback. There's complex versions of customer survey, right? Of getting customer surveys, and these things these days, for those you want to follow up, you know, one of the methods that's used quite a lot these days now is that long surveys don't work. You know, how many of you had of your email inbox where you open it up and it's 40 questions? They will not. Long surveys, customer surveys are dead. A lot of people now are using up to a maximum of 4 questions and even using staff member or receptionist or somebody to contact customers and go, hey, look, do you mind just answering 4 questions for it? And one of the key questions is users always throw in that mix. It's called the Net Promoter Score. Would you recommend our business to other people? And how would you score that out of 10? Number one, it gives a measure. And the other part is, which is not done enough, is leaders, business owners and leaders are not getting out talking to their customers enough. So the golden nuggets are found by owners and leaders getting out talking to their customers on a regular basis. And the more people get caught up in the whirlwind, the less time they're spending. So that's on the customer side. On the employee side, employee surveys are essential, but you apply the same principles. You can use complex surveys. I think a great tool to use is SurveyMonkey, and we actually have employee and customer surveys done in SurveyMonkey, and we can run them for you, and something we do for quite a cost-effective dollars per head. So we're doing that work now. But yeah, I mean, getting feedback from employees is a great way. Employee surveys, and the old-fashioned leadership. What about getting out and talking to employees? Same thing. But also, again, is they're now using the Net Promoter Score in terms of employee engagement. How likely would you be to recommend to a friend to come and work for the company you work for out of 10? So similar to customer Net Promoter Score is now using the Employee Promoter Score. So do it. And I don't care how simply it is, but just do it. Just do something and do it regularly. But a lot of leaders, I believe, are scared of the feedback they're going to get if they open up to asking questions of employees. But that fear is, we talked about barriers earlier. That fear barrier is huge, and you've got to overcome it. Good leaders have got to act in spite of fear. Yep. All righty. So now in terms of the next steps. So if you'd like a copy, if you don't have a copy of the U-Factor book, or you would like a copy of our leadership audit that sort of lines with this PowerPoint, so you can have a look identifying your own gaps, please send an email to renee@profithq.com.au, and Renee will be more than happy to organise a copy of the book and send you a copy of our leadership audit. And if you're on the Mindshot platform, you're already a client of, you're already being coached by Profit HQ and myself. Please enter your top 3 into the Mindshot platform so I can have a look at those with you, and we can have a look, work through it together on how to help you change behaviours, because there is a process to help people change habits. Because often habits are, people say, oh, I've had that, I've always done it that way. So habits are hard to change, particularly bad habits. You've got to appreciate habits can be good habits, they can be bad habits. So, but there is a process there that can be adopted. And how do we help people with leadership? We don't offer the individually, but we do it, part of our coaching program. So, and our coaching programs are academy programs for corporate programs to individual small business owners. So, and our next step is we're looking at a group coaching model to help with that. So, promise me one thing: don't go away and do nothing. Commit to doing something, picking one and going, I'm going to change something. Don't use this hour, waste this time by not doing anything or changing anything. So if you'd like to talk to someone about this or more, or what we offer, or what we do, or a bit more information, is just don't hesitate to give us a call on the work number there, and we'll, only one of us will be more than happy to talk to you. So on that note, good luck. Thank you for your time today.